Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Over the past 3 decades, pollinator populations worldwide have suffered serious losses. Scientists say there are a number of reasons why, including invasive pests and diseases, exposure to pesticides and other chemicals, and a loss of habitat. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, more than 100 crops grown in this country rely on pollination. Those crops are worth an estimated $24 billion. In addition to their impact on our food supply, pollinators also support healthy ecosystems needed for clean air and diverse wildlife. Across the Fence's Ben Willis visited Cedar Circle Farm in East Thetford to learn what we can do to make our own landscapes more pollinator friendly.
Pollinator species, including honeybees, not all honeybees being native to our landscape, are still vital to our food system. We're probably more dependent on them to some extent than they are on us. Most of the crops and foods that we enjoy throughout the summer and fall at our local farms and farm stands are really dependent on the services that they provide to pollinate our crops and to feed us local, diverse vegetables and fruits that we like to shop for and share with our families.
Stacy, tell me, what does your farm do to support pollinators?
Yeah, I think we have a few practices in place that help support pollinators. I think one of those just being having a lot of diversity. So we have everything from flowers to vegetables to tree lines and riparian buffers. And so we have a lot of different sources of habitat and food sources for different pollinators. So I think cover cropping is really key for us, and that we plant a lot of diverse cover crops that provide blooms throughout the season and sort of a wide range of food sources and habitat for different types of insects.
The farm's efforts in recent years have begun to yield tangible results.
We have somebody who comes in and leaves their hives here in the tree line over the summer, and yeah, it's been a great experience for us. And the years that we've started incorporating more buckwheat into our growing season cover crops and sort of any land that wasn't in production, putting it to buckwheat, the person who leaves their bees here noticed a dramatic, tenfold increase in their honey production. And so we know that we're having an impact, and that's something we've hung on to and really try to incorporate those summer blooming cover crops into our systems where we can, because it does have a pretty immediate impact.
Last year, the farm participated in research with the UVM Extension's pollinator program.
We worked with UVM Extension last year trialing out some cover crops that are intended to have specific pollinator and beneficial insect benefits, and so attracting pollinators, feeding them throughout the season, while also serving the purpose of protecting soil and building soil health through the cropping cycle. And so we were able to dedicate some plots in our cut flower garden and incorporate this diverse mixture of cover crop seed, which also had some great blooms. So it was an attractive display, and it was a nice educational piece for us to have here on our farm, where we could talk about cover cropping, the importance of protecting the soil, but also how diverse cover cropping, especially those that can provide forage for pollinators and other beneficial insects, can really have benefits to both the crops, but also just natural ecosystem.
But what can the average home gardener do to help pollinators? Cedar Circle Farm encourages folks to plant more native and pollinator-friendly perennials in their garden. I asked Stacy if she had any other tips for gardeners and landowners.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate for creating space for pollinators in your landscape or in your garden, but more so for creating space that you're not going to disturb. And so I always sort of shy away from planting anything that might attract pollinators if you intend to mow it or disturb it, because you don't want to attract pollinators, bees, to your landscape and then decimate the habitat or food source during the growing season. And so trying to allocate a space that you can let go to flower and leave alone for a period of time, I think, is really beneficial. And really thinking about diversity so that you have a long season of bloom, early season forage, late season forage, and really just trying to create as much diversity of food sources as you can.
So this spring, as you plant your gardens, don't forget about our pollinator friends. At Cedar Circle Farm in East Thetford, I'm Ben Willis with Across the Fence.
UVM Extension has established a pollinator program to support farm practices that promote the well-being of pollinators. For more information on that program, do an internet search for UVM Extension pollinators. Mechanization and machinery have forever changed the way many industries operate. But some businesses still do things the old-fashioned way, not because they're nostalgic, but because the old way is still viable if the conditions are right. Keith Silva tells us more from Randolph.
Brad Johnson and Derek O'Toole are what you would call workhorses. Durable, dependable, and hardworking. Bob and Ted would agree. And they should know.
We work with them, they don't work for us.
Johnson and O'Toole own and operate Third Branch Horse Logging. To watch them work the woods using animal power invokes a way of lifelong past. But make no mistake, these men and these horses aren't here for sentimental reasons. They're here to work.
And that's the assumption, right, in the public at large, and we're always fighting those assumptions like, oh, you're a horse logger, well, it's something you do on the side or for fun, or you have some other business, or it's not, it can't possibly be a full-time job. You can't really be running a small business as Power with Horses. We hear that all the time. And the reality is we're making the same kinds of analysis and decisions that every other small business owner is making.
People often make the kind of jump that we are anti-heavy machinery, anti-skidders, anti-harvesters, feller bunchers, and that's just not true. We just have a different model. And yeah, the horses may have been brought from the old world, but we feel that they are still a relevant tool as far as we can see.
Horses were used for centuries as the primary draft animal on the farm and in the forest. Because, well, they work.
We're trying to use the horses on as much acreage as we can because they are the most nimble extraction tool. Nothing has come on the market yet that weighs this much, even though he is about a ton, and can move as much weight and go through a 3-foot gap.
The horses primarily work on the stump, so the tree is felled.
Easy, G.
It's laid down, it's limbed and cut to length. We move that wood out to a place where the tractor can pick it up, and then the tractor makes that longer distance, that forward from the place where the horses leave it out to the landing, and then the tractor is able to stack it. But we need both tools to be commercially viable.
Third Branch Horse Logging provides landowners with a less is more approach to forestry that prioritizes long-term goals over quick profits.
We're certainly not a quantitative extraction tool. We pull out a lot less. The trees that are left behind, we're trying to do everything we can to give them the best shot to become the next generation of high quality, healthy trees.
We want to minimize our impact in every possible way while still providing a good financial option and a good long-term ecological option for landowners. And that's a little bit of a different approach. When I ask them to prioritize their top 5 goals for this cut, timber sale is probably not going to be number 1. It might be number 3, but they might have things like carbon sequestration. They might have things like cross-country ski trails for them and their kids and their grandkids. They might have things like bird habitat. But in every case, almost all of them have a very long-term perspective beyond timber sale.
Third Branch Horse Logging offers a unique approach to forestry, but it's no different from any other ag-based business. In order to work, it has to be profitable.
We still have to plug into a commodity market at the end of the day. And all of our expenses leading up to that truck taking those logs to the mill has to work. End of story, right?
In an ideal world, if we could do everything with just the horses and we can make a living doing that, I'd much prefer to do that. I'd rather be on the lines or on the cart than I would be on a tractor seat. But given the economic market in New England, the way logs and wood is bought and sold, we can't make a living doing that.
Yeah, well, with getting your website going, and now you've started
To keep
get
their business on track
an
and in the
outward
black,
facing presence.
Johnson and O'Toole work with Chris Lindgren, a forest business educator with University of Vermont Extension.
It's a different dynamic, for sure, when you add horses into the mix. You know, I work primarily with forest products businesses now, but historically I've worked on farms, and so figuring in those costs of essentially 24-hour work, which is when you're farming. So they're doing forestry work, but they're also farming because they have animals that they take care of.
There are about 2,000 people working in forest products businesses, according to the Vermont Sustainable Jobs Fund. Through workshops and one-on-one consultation, Lindgren works with around 60 clients.
A lot of what I do is work on building people's confidence, both on the sort of analysis, record keeping, business, numbers part of it. Once people see the work that these guys do, if they're the right fit, the right person who's looking for that kind of job, it kind of sells itself.
Chris has been great for us. We frankly needed help in terms of figuring out a number of different things. The biggest one being, how is our model viable in the conventional marketplace? Can you use horses in a way that allows you to make a decent living? So Chris has been super helpful for us in getting our fixed costs, our variable costs down. And I think a lot of folks who use horses, and probably other loggers as well, are really, for the most part, guessing at those numbers, right? And for us, because our profit margins are incredibly small, we really have to know what those numbers are.
The financial viability and sustainability of third branch horse logging is yoked to the pride these men have for their work and the horses they work with.
You have to love it, but there's also results on the ground from the work that we're doing that are tangible, that you can see. So coupled with the work that we do and the product that we deliver and liking the animals and using them for that application, it's something that I like to get up and do.
I love horses. I connect with them. I get something out of my work that I can't get using any other tool. There's something about working with live power that really appeals to me, and frankly, I think I'm skilled with it, and the tool suits me, and I think I'm able to get something from horses that's pretty magical when you're out there working.
Third branch horse logging takes a fresh approach to forestry management. And if it looks a little old-fashioned, that's okay, because it still works. In Randolph, I'm Keith Silva with Across the Fence.
Third branch horse logging got its name because the third branch is the section of the White River that connects Brad and Derek's home farms. And that's our program for today. Once again, thank you for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Stay well.